Welcome to Arcane Ops, the paranormal, unsolved, true crime conspiracy podcast. If this is your cup of ectoplasm, go to arcaneops.com where you can support us by joining the club and get yourself a t-shirt while you're there. Keep in mind, I'll be posting different content on different platforms, so subscribe, like, comment, share, leave reviews, and all that. If you do, I promise I'll keep posting awesome, bizarre content. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm your host, Nick Van Horn, a cynical, mostly skeptical police detective who's fascinated by the unexplained and bizarre. Let's delve into the mysterious and arcane. I have always been fascinated by ghost towns. Not so much for the paranormal aspect, but the hidden history. My dad worked as a wildlife biologist, and when I was a kid, he took me on a lot of work trips with him. There were a lot of times we ended up in remote, abandoned towns, and I always wondered what would drive people to abandon an entire town. Today, we're going to talk about two famous ghost towns and why people abandoned them. And as usual, we'll also talk about who didn't abandon them. That's right, we are talking about haunted ghost towns. Before we get into it, you can find the show notes for this episode at arcaneops.com/004. Number 2. St. Elmo, Colorado. St. Elmo is about a 3-hour drive southwest from Denver. The town was settled in 1878 when people began pouring into the area to mine silver and gold. At its peak, it was home to over 2,000 residents, mostly single men. This demographic brought with it saloons, brothels, and other not-safe-for-work entertainment. By 1881, the town was connected to the railroad to streamline ore offloading. Also in 1881, a cattleman named Anton Stark fell in love with the town and took up residence with his wife, Anna, and 3 children, Tony, Roy, and Annabelle. No, not the doll. Anton quickly began working as a section boss at one of the mines, and Anna ran the hotel and general store. According to the locals, Anna was a relentless, proud woman who considered herself far above everyone else. The Stark children were kept inside and forbidden from interacting with anyone but each other. Anna was said to be very harsh with the children. The town peaked in 1890, and the decline began when the business section burnt down. They started to rebuild but never finished due to the declining population. When the Alpine Tunnel was finally closed down, the town plummeted. In 1922, the last train departed St. Elmo with the last of its residents, never to return. The last, except for the Starks. The attractive Annabelle Stark got married in 1922, but the marriage only lasted 2 years. After it ended, she returned to St. Elmo, where she spent the rest of her life. Tony and Roy tried to get people to reopen the mines, but they had no luck. They turned the town into a tourist destination while the town fell into disrepair. In 1934, Roy died along with his mother, Anna, a short time later. Tony and Annabelle became the only residents. As Annabelle began caring less and less about her appearance, people started calling her Dirty Annie. She was very defensive of the town and carried a rifle around to defend the property. The post office closed on September 30th, 1952, and the town officially became a ghost town. Tony and Annabelle were committed to an asylum for a while, and shortly after they were released, Tony died. Annabelle died in a nursing home in 1960. Up until this point, the town wasn't haunted. And that was all about to change. Not long after Annabelle's death, some kids were playing in the hotel. Out of nowhere, the doors slammed all at once, and the air became ice cold. A bunch of people took it upon themselves to refurbish the hotel. They put their tools and supplies away at the end of each day, and when they returned in the morning after, somebody had piled everything into the middle of the floor. After dealing with this for a while, they started locking everything in closets and cabinets. Can you guess what happened? That's right. When they came back, everything was in the middle of the floor. Several people have reported seeing an attractive woman in white standing in the second-story window when there was allegedly supposed to be no one there. One skier said that she saw a woman in the window glaring off in the distance. When she followed the woman's gaze, she saw a group of snowmobilers riding through the streets. The skier warned them that it was illegal to ride snowmobiles in town. They apologized and left. The skier looked back to the woman in the window. The woman nodded, turned away, then vanished. Many people believe this woman is Annabelle Stark, who remains to protect the town from vandals and trespassers. There have been several reported ghost sightings in St. Elmo, the most prominent being the ghost of Dirty Annie. In 2002, a fire claimed 6 more buildings, which led to a huge preservation project to save the rest of the town. If you want to visit the town to see if the ghost of Dirty Annie is actually there, you can check out saint-elmo.com or click the link in the notes. You might need to wait until May since St. Elmo sits at almost 10,000 feet and is probably covered in snow already. Number 1. Cerro Gordo, California. In 1865, Mexican miners discovered rich silver veins near Buena Vista Peak in the Inyo Mountains. In 1866, Mortimer Belshaw and Victor Baudry claimed most of the area and set up a huge mining operation. Over the next several decades, Cerro Gordo pushed millions of dollars worth of silver down the mountain to a little tiny port town you've probably never heard of, Los Angeles. Cerro Gordo's wealth is responsible for the rise of Los Angeles. They say Los Angeles is where it is because of Cerro Gordo. Cerro Gordo is where it is because of the Hoist House. And the Hoist House is where it is because of the hoist that leads down into the mining levels. It seems a little daunting that a burned out hoist is responsible for one of the world's largest, most popular cities. In the early 20th century, silver became scarce, but miners found lead and zinc, so operations continued. Over the next few years, workers completely depleted the ore, and Cerro Gordo began its fall. By 1938, the town's production completely ceased. During Cerro Gordo's heyday, there were all kinds of disasters in the mines and the camps. The town is known for its bloody history. I don't think anyone really knows how many murders there were in Cerro Gordo. One of the most famous murders happened in the dining room of the American Hotel. We don't know who murdered whom, but we do know that it was over a card game. A bullet hole in the wall and a dried up pool of blood remained until the hotel burned down on June 15th of this year. Over the years, a lot of paranormal activity has been reported in Cerro Gordo. There are major hotspots in the bunkhouse, American Hotel, and inside the mines. There have been independent reports from unconnected sources about a mischievous apparition in the bunkhouse that likes to rearrange furniture and decorations. Brent Underwood, the current owner of Cerro Gordo, said he saw someone in the bunkhouse living room with the light on one of his first nights there. There was no one around who would have been there. He turned off the light and locked the door. When he looked a little while later, the light was on again. The most famous ghost in Cerro Gordo is the ghost of Alphonse Benoit. Mr. Benoit was a local woodcutter who was murdered. No one knows why or by whom. Since his murder, people have reported seeing his ghost walking around the Inyo Mountains and in the American Hotel's kitchen. On the afternoon of June 14th of this year, Cerro Gordo's caretaker and visitor were walking around the town, and they saw an apparition in the kitchen of the hotel. The ghost may or may not have been that of Mr. Benoit, but less than 12 hours later, the hotel burned to the ground, destroying a huge part of Cerro Gordo's unrecoverable history and artifacts. The irony is, the hotel opened June 15th, 1871. It burned down in the early morning hours of June 15th, 2020, 149 years to the day after it opened. The investigation determined shoddy electrical work caused the fire. You tell me, did the ghost cause the fire, appear as an omen, or was it all coincidental? The fire was a major setback in Brent's renovation project. He's got the original blueprints for the hotel and plans to rebuild it as close to the original structure as possible. If you're into preserving history, even if you aren't, there are ways to help make this happen by donating to the GoFundMe campaign or buying anything from the Cerro Gordo online store. There are links to both in the notes. Brent has been staying at Cerro Gordo since March. He's been alone in the ghost town for most of that time. He's got a YouTube channel where he's been documenting his renovations, explorations, and life in Cerro Gordo. There's a link to that in the notes if you want to follow him. Both of these ghost towns are at the top of my list to visit. There's a lot of rich history to explore, whether or not you're looking for paranormal activity. You can visit both of them at certain times of the year. As I said, there are links in the notes for more info on that. If you have ideas or stories of other ghost towns you want to explore on the show, let me know. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next realm. In the meantime, if you want to support Arcane Ops, go to arcaneops.com and sign up, buy merch, any and all those things. Have a topic or story you want to explore on the show? Go to arcaneops.com/topic and fill out the form. If I use your story, I'll make sure everyone knows it came from you. Unless anonymity rules are in play. Until next time, keep your eyes open for the mysterious and arcane.